Hello and welcome to The Talking Voice. I'm your host, The Heavy Hero. Today we'll be talking about such topics as sports, Army of Two Devil's Cartel, and the movie Outlander. Let's begin, shall we? I've decided that of all people there are out there to talk about sports, I am the least qualified. Besides babies, people who have never seen sports. Yeah, I think that about covers the people who are less qualified than I. But I don't watch sports often, I don't play sports often, and I don't even play sports games often. So let's chit-chat about sports. Let's start with basketball. I don't mind basketball, especially when they add things like trampolines to it, or giant heads, or mascots. I think mascots should be playing basketball instead of cheering people on, but I feel like I'm not alone in that. It's just hard to get enough mascots around to actually play a game of basketball with, because there's one per team, and teams don't want to put mascots on the same team because then it would be sporting different teams with different mascots, and it'd get really complicated really quickly. Basketball's alright. It's kind of got some strange rules to it, but it's better played on the street. Not to say like, back alley, no, just like at the park where you can shove people over and take the ball right out of their hands and they can yell foul all they want, but it won't change the fact that you've just made a point. Moving on to the next sport, golf. It's one of those games where even when you're playing it, it's kind of boring unless you're doing well. If you're the guy who's actually making the shots, you probably feel great about yourself, but everybody else is bored out of their mind and frustrated because every shot they take either lands in a sand pit or the woods or not close or too far, and it's never something that one person can accomplish very well. And watching golf on TV has never been a pastime of mine. Every once in a while I'll catch a glimpse of it, but I can't see why anyone would actually want to pay to watch people golf. It's not that exciting. Not at all. Baseball. Another one of those ones where when you're playing it, it's more exciting than it is when you're watching it. Going to a stadium, the whole atmosphere adds to it because you get to eat expensive food that should be actually cheap. And it smells like spilled beer on the seat and peanuts that people have crushed from centuries ago. And it's an American pastime, sure, but maybe it's past its time? No. Baseball will be around forever, I think, however long forever ends up being. But baseball, it's fun to hit like a home run every once in a while, but watching it on TV, once again, it's not that exciting. Soccer, or football, whatever you want to actually call it, it doesn't matter to me. It's too tiring to play. I can't run around that much, and I don't understand the rules. Soccer is probably the one I don't pay enough attention. Well, I don't pay enough attention to any of them, or maybe I pay the right amount of attention, which is not at all. But soccer is way too physical for me to care about. You got to run around, and then you can't run past this line with the ball because you're for hair, and it's like hockey. I can't understand hockey either. Can't isn't the right word either. I don't understand hockey or soccer. I don't know the rules. I don't think I ever will, and that's fine. I'll live happily ever after without hockey or soccer in my life. What other sports are there? Volleyball is a sport. That one's alright. I don't play it because I'm not that great, and using your hands in that fashion to bump the ball isn't really for me. I think that about covers sports. I'm sure there are plenty more out there. I know there are lots out there, but they're not ones I can think of at the top of my head. Let's talk about Army of Two Devil's Cartel. Warning, there are spoilers in here because I beat the game and I want to rant about it. And if you're going to watch this, then you're going to have to deal with the fact that I'm going to be talking about things that happened in the end of the game. So the Army of Two series is great because it's like B action movies and there's just lots going on. Like in 2, you're running through. Where are you at into? I can't remember. All I know is that you do a lot of really crazy stuff, and you get sniper rifles that are golden, which is awesome. And you can do that in this one too. You can get shotguns that shoot faster than any gun ever should, and rocket launch. Well, you don't get rocket launchers. Well, that's right. You got that in 2. You can get a gold-plated rocket launcher. But this one was not as well done as the second one, I think. The characters that they force you to play as aren't that interesting. The whole plot shift where Salem goes evil really was predictable almost to a fault. And Rios getting shot in the gut was uncalled for by Salem later. And then everyone you try and save in that game ends up getting killed. The first goal of the game was to save the president, or the soon-to-be president of Mexico, I think it was. And he gets shot in the face. And then after that, a lady you saved from the beginning of the game where Salem gets left and turns evil, she turns out to be pretty cool, and then she gets killed. And so your whole idea of saving her from the get-go becomes pointless because she's now dead. And then the guy who should be killed, who is Salem, ends up getting just thrown in prison, and then if you wait after the credits, it looks like he gets let out after he carves something into the wall, which I didn't read because I didn't care anymore. It was too long for too little payoff, and everyone you cared about died except for the 2 people you play as, which I don't. The 2 people you play as that I don't actually care about at all. And it wasn't Army of 2. Their company was called TWO. Then they had TWO Vision. It wasn't 2 Vision. It was TWO Vision. They called it that every time. Made me mad. Or frustrated. Not mad, just some form of emotion that is close to anger but not quite to the point of throwing things was the mood I was in at the end of the game. Moving on to Outlander. I rented this with some friends when we were trying to find crappy movies, and it turned out to be great, which was fantastic. It had lots of good actors in it, which was surprising. And Ron Perlman showed up out of nowhere, just riding. He had like 2 stone hammers. Well, the basic premise of this movie is that this guy from a distant universe has chased this alien where they had destroyed its home world and were going to kill the last one, but it got onto their ship, destroyed the ship. The ship crash lands into Viking territory on Earth, and he decides he has to kill it before it reproduces and causes disaster on Earth. And so he hunts it down, and he ends up joining with the Viking clan and all this great stuff. Really cool, well done movie that I don't know why it never came out in theaters, besides the fact that it just wasn't as polished as other movies were. Worse movies have come out in theaters. Speed Racer came out in theaters and this movie did not. That's sad. Sad. I even saw Speed Racers in theaters. That's shameful. Well, anyways, that's about all I have to talk about. I would suggest renting Outlander, not Devil's Cartel. Army of 2, that one, you could rent it, I guess, for a night and try and beat it, but it's not worth it. Well, thank you for joining me for The Talking Voice. This has been an enlightening time for both you and I. I'll see you next week.